By now, you must know that Donald Trump has staked out what he thinks is a really savvy position on abortion, claiming that he's just going to leave it up to the states. He was bragging about killing Roe v. Wade like a week ago, and he'll definitely sign an abortion ban if it lands on his desk as president. But he's claiming this is better, it's safer, I can get elected on this. Everybody will be happy with this position, except that almost no one is happy with that position. And I want to turn to some of the Republicans who are criticizing him. We'll acknowledge some of his defenders as well, but Lindsey Graham not happy about this. He posted, "I respectfully disagree with President Trump's statement that abortion is a states' rights issue. Dobbs does not require that conclusion legally, and the pro-life movement has always been about the well-being of the unborn child, not geography. I'm glad that he points out that their concern over the well-being of children is entirely encapsulated by them being unborn. Once they're born, not interested anymore. Thank you, Lindsey Graham, for being honest." Now, the states' rights only rationale today runs contrary to an American consensus that would limit late-term abortions and will age about as well as the Dred Scott decision. The science is clear. A child at 15 weeks is well-developed and is capable of feeling pain. We will return to that claim from noted Dr. Lindsey Graham. He says, "I will continue to advocate that there should be a national minimum standard limiting abortion at 15 weeks because the child is capable of feeling pain, with exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. However, until we achieve this goal, the least we can do is provide anesthesia to an unborn child facing an abortion at 15 weeks because they can feel pain." He's going in a direction that most pro-lifers don't often talk about, but okay. "Therefore, I will be introducing new legislation, blah, 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 requiring that." Okay, so the issue for that is, well, it's multi-parted. So one is, there is no scientific consensus that a fetus can feel pain at 15 weeks. It seems convenient to say that that's when they can feel pain, when the Republicans are saying, I think that's the weeks where people will be okay with us banning the procedure. Science conclusively establishes that a human fetus does not have the capacity to experience pain until at least 24 to 25 weeks. That's according to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, who arguably, we must acknowledge, might know as much about this as Lindsey Graham, about as much. And they're saying it's literally months later than Lindsey Graham is. I will go a step beyond that, and I understand I'm an atheist or whatever. If you are going to hinge your argument on there being a distinct moral line that is crossed once pain can be felt, first of all, actually make clear that that's what you're trying to do. And I don't know, maybe make the explanation as to why exactly that should be the line. I mean, it's not, again, they don't care about when that line would actually be crossed, but if that's the point where we cannot do anything that causes a sentient, conscious thing to experience pain, then we're gonna have to revisit a whole lot of the things that the right claims to believe, the policies that they support. Why is that the line? They never actually make the case. They're just hoping that you'll do the math, I guess, and agree with them. And that historically has not worked out very well for them. So in a moment, we're gonna turn to Donald Trump's reaction to the criticism from Lindsey Graham. Spoiler alert, it is vicious. But first, Yaz, you haven't yet gotten a chance to comment on this new position by Donald Trump and the criticism that he's facing. What do you think?
Yeah, Republicans love to state things as fact that are so easily disproven. And it's actually a little incredible how reliable it is for them to do that, because they know that their constituents aren't actually going to fact check them on things. So they can just say whatever they want, make whatever arguments they want that are based on really nothing at all. And it is funny seeing this fallout, the fact that Trump is somehow not as extreme as Republicans would like him to be. Even he is not as conservative, is not as MAGA as they are at this point. So they've really taken this brand that he's created and run with it way, way, way far to the right. It's also interesting, this whole statement that he tried to make. First, he took credit for enacting the abortion ban while he wasn't even president. He said that, it got overturned because of the things that he set up while he was president, as far as putting those judges in places. And then by the time Biden took office, then all of his Trump judges were the ones to overturn the abortion rights in the country. And then he also said that abortion rights are a state's issue. So that's where he's getting a lot of the backlash. So I don't want to say it's inconsistency in his messaging, but as far as his constituents, though, or his voters go, I should say, they might be a little confused, and it seems like that is what's happening. And it also seems like that was the intended result. That's what Trump was going for. He wanted to be vague. He wanted to be maybe not confusing, but just really non-committal as far as what his stance is on this issue. And that also makes sense because more Americans today identify as being pro-choice than they did before the 2022 decision.
Yeah, which shouldn't be super surprising, but it's good to acknowledge. Yeah, he was super vague. Yesterday on the show, we broke down all the things that he wasn't saying in that statement about abortion. I think a lot of people have some, I think, tough questions perhaps for him about what stance he'll actually take. I will say, he and many of the Republicans constantly change their messaging about this because it's all contingent on what they think they'll be allowed to get away with. The only position they truly hold, the only one that you need to understand is they will say whatever they need to say if they think it gets them closer to banning it entirely nationwide. It being a states' rights issue, does that help? Okay, then that's what we're for. Oh wait, now we can do it federally? Okay, we'll do it there. 20 weeks, that's the most we can get away with? Okay, then I guess it's 20 weeks. Wait, 15 weeks, that's when it can feel pain. Wait, 6 weeks, that's when it has electrical signal for the heart. They will say literally whatever they have to say to continually move closer and closer to the final goal, which is it being completely outlawed in all cases. Perhaps with a couple of like token decoration exceptions that aren't worth half a damn, but that's their actual position. And just briefly, Trump obviously, as I said, not happy about this. He says that Senator Lindsey Graham should spend more time focusing on all the many people being killed because of our now non-existent border. Well, I don't know. I mean, you were the one that helped kill the border bill, so maybe you should pay a little bit more attention to that. Blah, blah, blah. It was a great Roe v. Wade victory. Again, he is trying to cover his ass for the election, but he is too vain and too stupid to pass up a chance to remind everyone that he killed Roe v. Wade. And so you can take whatever stance you want on True Social, buddy. Everybody on election day is gonna know that you're the one that took away bodily autonomy. And he goes on blah, 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 a whole bunch of other stuff. He's talking about how Lindsey Graham is continually changing the threshold for when abortion should be allowed. And Trump, in the second truth, if you could bring it up. And Trump is 100% right about that. That is what Lindsey Graham is doing. That's what a lot of them do. Bear in mind, before Trump staked out this new position, he was doing the same thing when a month ago he said, and nationally, I guess 16 weeks, nice round number. And then like 2 weeks later, he said 15. So they're all just hopping around. But he is right about Lindsey Graham in that particular case. And he closes out his little rant saying, I blame myself for Lindsey Graham because the only reason he won in the great state of South Carolina is because I, capital E, endorsed him. Which is, I don't know, it's at least debatable. Maybe that's true. But to be clear, Lindsey Graham is not the only person attacking Donald Trump. Jenna Ellis, fresh off of slamming Melania Trump for holding a log cabin Republican fundraiser, is saying that Trump is so weak. He's punting on the issue of pro-life and pledge. I love it, just the issue of pro-life. What weaselly Orwellian BS is that? Oh yeah, Jenna Ellis and her movement are just, they're pro-life for everything, you know? At the very least, when something can feel pain, that's what Lindsey Graham taught me. By the way, I fact check it, and the thousands of children being blown to bits by American weapons in Gaza, every single one of them could feel pain. I looked into it. Maybe you should incorporate that in your ideology. Other conservative influencers, Allie Beth Stuckey, also attacking Donald Trump, calling it a weak statement. And in particular, the fact that, and this might be consistent for Trump, he has, as far as I've seen, never staked out a position against IVF, at the very least. He's been super back and forth on abortion, but he has been consistent, I think, on IVF, and they hate that too. They say that it involves eugenics and the freezing of embryos. Also, she doesn't want the exceptions, I guess, for rape and incest. So look, this is the issue with being the figurehead of a movement of insane people. It is very difficult to stake out a sort of pragmatic, moderate election position because you've trained them to be rabid, and rabid they will be. More thoughts, Yas?
Yeah, so I think what I'm tired of with all of this is, with maybe not just Republicans, but politicians in general, I get really frustrated whenever they start to conflate a lot of issues, whenever they try to make any point about any one specific issue. Like, I don't know why we're talking about the border when it comes to this discussion about abortion rights. And I know that's not the point of what we're talking about, but I think it just speaks really to the idea that they have all these different stances, they have all these different ideas, and they try to tell you that they're all sort of bound by an ideology or a value system or something like that. when really a lot of what they say contradicts what other people on their side are saying, or even things that they themselves have said in the past. And I don't understand why it's so hard for them to just stay focused on one topic whenever they're talking. Also, one of Biden's biggest anti-Trump campaigning points was that Trump will absolutely nationalize the abortion ban if he's elected in November. That may not work anymore, given what Trump has just said. But even before Trump came out with this stance on abortion, the Biden campaign, and I feel like we've been saying this for a while now, has been overly reliant on Trump fear mongering to win this election. You know, the fact that Biden is not Donald Trump simply is not going to be enough to motivate people to go to the poll in November. And it was barely enough last time we had this same exact election between Trump and Biden. And I don't know if it's going to be enough this time. And Democratic voters, they're tired of the Democrats failing to fulfill their campaign promises to the American people just because, let's say, the issue of abortion and women's health care really motivates voters and strengthens their base. So they like having it as a campaign issue. But it's like, instead of running campaigns according to real life and real issues, we're instead fabricating a reality that better serves political campaigns. And it feels completely backwards.
I agree. I think that was very well put. And look, so you pointed out about, you were talking about the nationalization. Like, again, we are analyzing the position he's staking out because we're in an election, and that's sort of the stakes, is how it's going to affect all that. But if he gets in the office, how stupid does a person have to be to believe that if the Republicans try to ban it nationally, he'll veto it? Come on, he's not going to veto it. And like, maybe some people would say, and this sort of makes sense, well, yeah, but if they actually ban it, then that'll kill them in the midterms. They killed Roe v. Wade. Yes, okay, they would prefer not to lose elections when they can, but they'll do stuff that threatens it. Killing Roe v. Wade has hurt them in elections. They still did it. So anybody who's like, no, surely he won't do anything insane once he get elected. I will remind all of you, and some of you might not have been around, there were a lot of people saying that in 2016. And I lived through those years. I did the news during those years. He did a lot of crazy stuff. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.